Hello everybody, welcome to today's class. I hope you are all feeling well. The weather is cold outside, so you shall take care of yourselves. To be well, you must take care of yourselves. Before we start today's lesson, let's talk a little. Can you please tell me some of the rules you meet in your daily life? In public? Yes, yes. Yes, there are signs. Yes, there are traffic signs. There are boards. Yes, there are written rules. Yes, that's true. Yes, yes, there are rules in most places, in public transports, in theaters, in public parks, and many places we get in and travel to. You're right. There are all written rules. Yes, everybody must obey them. That's true. Since they are written, everybody must obey them. So, yes, yes, true. Yes, you're right. Now, can you tell me about the rules that your parents put to you at home? What they want from you? What they put rules as their own rules for home? Can you tell me about those? Yes, that's true. Yes, they want you to keep your room tidy. They want you to help them for some work. They want you to do your homework, to sleep early, to get up early. Yes, that's true. They, yes, true, true. They want us, they want from us many things. That's true. But that's what they want and what they require from you. Those are not written rules, are they? No, they are not written rules. Yes, you're true. For example, when coming to here, I have met many road signs. I'm driving to teaching you. When I was coming here, I have seen many road signs which tell me how to use the traffic to be safe and to make others safe. For example, when I ride a public transport, there are also rules for comfortable travel, both written rules and public rules, which we have to obey. So there are also rules coming from other people, which are not written rules, as I said. So we must also obey those to be comfortable in public. Yes, you're right. In today's lesson, we will learn to express obligation and necessity using the must and have to structures. We will learn about the differences in use. Now, I want you to look at your handout sheets that I gave to you to see our structures. What's the difference between them? Now, let's check must and have to. Firstly, let's start with must. Must is used to express personal obligation. What means? That means they are not written rules and depend on the speaker's wants and demands. So they express subjective obligation to us and express what the speaker thinks is necessary. On the other hand, have to expresses impersonal obligation, which means mostly written rules that we have to obey. So the subject is obliged and forced to act by a separate external power. And this expresses us objective obligation, not the obligation of the speaker, not subjective obligation. So you see the differences? One is written rules, the other is the thinking of the speaker. So we can say that have to is little more powerful. We must obey. Let's clarify it with some example. For example, I must go to bed earlier. So there's no written rule that tells me to go to bed early. But I think that I must go to bed early to take my sleep well and wake up in the morning well. So that's a necessity, but it's a subjective obligation. It depends on my opinion. You must answer all the questions. So that's also my thinking. If you don't answer all the questions, you'll get a bad mark. But it depends on you to answer all the questions or not. It's not a strict obligation, or it's not a written rule. Let's have an example from have to. I have to arrive at work at 9 sharp. This is an obligation from an outer force, which means if I don't get at work at 9 a.m. sharp, I might get fired. So I have to obey this. Let's do another example. In Britain, you have to drive from left. So in Britain, traffic flows through left lane. So you have to drive from left. You have no chance to drive from right. So you have to. That's a written rule that you must obey. In general, we can say that must and have to both implement as obligation and necessity, but have to has a stronger effect on us. It's a written rule, it's a must obey. You have to obey harder. You have less chance to disobey. You understand? In the negative forms, the meaning changes. It's not the same as the positive forms. For example, in the negative of must not, means that there's something you shall not, you mustn't do. You have no chance to do it. It's prohibited. It describes us a prohibition, that we are not allowed to do anything. You mustn't speak in the library means you are not allowed to speak at any time in the library. On the other hand, the negative form of have to is not a strong necessity. It means the action depends on our choice. You don't have to wake up early means you can wake up early or you may wake up late. It depends on your own choice. So it removes the necessity of have to. The negative form means that way. There's also another point that we have to know, that must has no past or future form. It's only in present form. But on the other hand, have to has past and future forms. So the past form of have to is had to. We use had to in the past. And in the future, we use will have to. So we can use past or future forms of have to. But must is only used in present form. Now let's take a look at some examples to improve our understanding. I want you to look at your first practice handout. Now fill in the blanks with the proper form. Okay, I'm waiting for you. When you finish, we can go over it together. So I believe you are finished. Now let's go some of the examples together. Let's look at first one. I blank get up early today. I want to do my job. So there's a job to be done, but it's my job. So to decision of getting up, if I want to do it done, I must get up early. If I don't want to do it, I have no need to get up early. So the subject doing depends on me. So we use here must. Let's look at the second example. He blank write a test in literature. Writing a test in literature means to pass a class or not. So to pass a class, he has to write a test in literature. So it's an obligation coming from the school rules. If you want to pass the literature class, you have to write a test. So we use here has to. Since he is he, we use has to. He has to write the test in literature. Let's have a look at example 7. This is the negative form of have to. So we can see understand the meaning. You don't have to pay for this book. It's a present. It means that paying for this book depends on your decision. You can either pay it or don't pay it. It's up to you to do the action or not. And let's look at the 6th one. It's the negative form or must. You mustn't go. Thin ice. So you are not allowed to go. It's thin ice. If you go, you will fall into the ice, into the river maybe, and may get drowned. So it's not a written rule. You may break it, but if you break it, you can fall into the ice. So you mustn't go. Thin ice. We know that the ice is thin, and it's sure that you will fall into it. So you mustn't go. The second exercise, I guess, will be easier for you. You can understand the structure of these two, must and have to. So do this sheet and unscramble the sentences and write in correct order. I'm waiting for you. So I guess you're all done. So can you read me a few sentences? For example, can you read me number 6? Yes, that's true. Yes, you're right. Can you do number 13, please? Yes, that's true. You're right. Yes, that's true. Okay. So you understand, I guess. You're clear with it. So you can easily do the third sheet. Please fill in the blanks with the correct structure. Okay, well, I guess you're all finished. Now, let's check some of the examples. For example, in example 8, there's a soldier. He says, I blank wear a uniform and carry a gun. Since it's a soldier, there are written rules for being a soldier. So he has to wear a uniform and carry a gun. You see, it's an obligation from an external power. It's a written rule. Same as example 11. He is a worker. So he has to wear a suit and a tie when he goes to work. That's a written rule by the company. He cannot go casual to work, or he may get fired, right? That's the written rule of that company. So he has to. But in the first example, I solved the crime because I am the best detective ever. He thinks, that's his opinion, that he is the best detective. So he must solve the crime. It's not an obligation from the public or from somebody else. He thinks he must solve the crime. So you see, the necessity comes from the person, not a written rule. So it's a subjective obligation, not an objective obligation as in have to. So as we finished our exercises, now what I want from you is to write down few rules, few actions that you have to and you must while being a student. While studying, the actions you have to and you must. Make a list of those actions. For example, write 3 of them each. So when you finish your list, you can read it to the class and check together. If it's a necessity, uh, subjective necessity or objective necessity. So we can check it. So I'm waiting for you to write down. Okay, now I believe you're all finished. So now I want you to read your list so we can listen and decide whether it's a subjective or objective necessity. Yes, yes, yeah. Your examples are right. Thank you. You have done well. So the rest of the class can tell me whether his obligations, his sentences are true, which one should be must, which one should be have to. You can discuss and decide. Yes, that's true. His most statements are true. He has made the difference. He has learned the difference well. So I guess most of you have learned well. Before you finish, let's make a few other examples to clearly understand the situation and make it perfectly okay. So now I'll give you a few example situations and you tell me whether we must use must or have to. For example, be quiet in library. Yes, that's true. We have to be quiet because that's an obligation from the written rules of the library. You're right. Everybody has to obey it. Tidy my room. Yes, that's true. That's personal obligation. So we use must. Help my mom cook. Yes, you're right. It's also a must. Feed my cat. Yes, that's true. It's also a must. Pay for the book you buy. Yes, that's true. You're right. It's have to. I have to pay the book that I buy. That's a necessity. That's an I must obey it no matter who I am. It's a strict obligation. Yes, that's true. So I have to pay for the book that I buy. Otherwise, it's gonna be theft and it's illegal. Yes, you're right. Thank you. So today's class is finished. We're done. Thank you for your participation and patience. Thank you. You have all done well. So see you in next class. Goodbye.